Yes, boxing fans, it's your boy Big Nige, and welcome to another episode of Boxing Weekly Roundup with yours truly. It's been a mad eventful week of boxing. Let's get cracking, because that's what we're here for, innit? Josh Taylor controversially, and hence the word controversially, because I'm not even wasting no time here. Josh Taylor controversially retained his undisputed belts against Jack Catterall in a split decision. I'm sure you're all aware, loads of people calling it a robbery. I went on social media and the amount of tweets that I saw screaming robbery, boxing needs to change, boxing, the judges, what were they seeing, so on and so forth. So the judges scored 113-112 to Catterall, 114-111 in favour of Josh Taylor, and the last judge scored 113-112 also in favour of Josh Taylor. My question to those two judges who were in favour of Taylor was, one, what fight were you watching? And two, who's been sliding some money into your account to basically rig the fight?
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
Experts, commentators, presenters, boxing fans all say that Catterall won that fight hands down. But yet those two judges who literally have the fate in their hands go against the grain and say that Taylor won that fight. And there was obviously that one in particular who literally said Taylor won by 3 rounds. What fight were you watching? Like, honestly. Like, let me know the guys that's sliding peas into your account, because clearly that's the only reason why you would go against the grain. It makes no sense to me. There's always been this stigma that boxing is a corrupt sport, it's a dirty sport. I always try and associate that narrative with the past. Boxing of today, we're trying to move away from that narrative. But stupid decisions like this just brings the whole sport down and it just loses its credibility. Boxing is the only sport that the judges control the fate of the result. So if the boxer doesn't win by knockout, essentially those 3 judges basically control their fate. You have football where it's a scoring system, tennis a scoring system, cricket. Like all the other sports isn't determined by 3 judges. And I feel like if these judges are not being held accountable for the decisions that they made, then this sport will continue to lose casual fans. I'm a hardcore boxing fan and it won't get rid of me that quickly, but something needs to change. Thankfully, it was recently announced that the British Board of Control are investigating into the victory of Josh Taylor over Catterall. Hopefully we'll get some justice, but something needs to change because we are truly tarnishing this sport. Going back to the actual fight in itself, like it was an amazing atmosphere, and credit to Jack Catterall because he walked into the lion's den. It was a perfectly executed game plan from Catterall. He established his jab from round 1, caught Josh Taylor with a beautiful left shot. Literally, he done a feint and caught him clean on the chin. And from then on, he caught my attention. The first half of the fight was such a dominant performance from Catterall. I think I gave him 5 rounds to 1. That's how dominant he was. He frustrated Taylor with constant grappling. Taylor's known for being very good on the inside and closing the gap and applying pressure. Catterall nullified that strength by constantly grappling him, putting him in headlocks and constantly frustrating him. And you could see that Josh Taylor was constantly frustrated because he couldn't get busy on the inside. That was obviously one of the game plans that Catterall and Jamie Moore put together. I listened to The Gloves Are Off. Johnny Nelson asked him, how long have you been watching Josh Taylor? And he said from 2019 when he last fought Ivan Baranchyk at the Hydro in Glasgow. So from then on, he's been studying him and working out a game plan. Another thing that's caught my attention in that Gloves Are Off was he said Josh Taylor's weakness is his temperament, and that's 1,000,000%. He's so hot-headed. You can see in the build-up to the fight week, especially in the weigh-in, he gets so rattled up. It's so easy for that temperament to easily become his weakness. And Catterall definitely played on that by constantly grappling him and frustrating him and catching him with cute shots on the counter anytime he tried to step in. I felt like Josh Taylor was struggling to find his range. He couldn't get off the jab, and anytime he tried to step in, Catterall was constantly catching him off the jab. Whenever Josh Taylor did get in range and was popping off the jab and he tried to let off the backhand, Catterall was so efficient with that shoulder roll. He would tuck in his chin. There wasn't much of a target for Josh Taylor to catch, which again was frustrating. And I noticed as well, whenever Catterall was constantly hitting him to the body, you could see Taylor was feeling those shots. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but he was constantly looking to his corner as to, what do I do now? It almost looked like he was stuck, as in he didn't know what to do. Another thing that impressed me with Catterall was how he managed to control the pace of the fight. I thought that he was constantly in control. There were times when he was on the ropes and allowing Josh Taylor to plant his feet and throw those shots. And he just constantly just rolling, sliding, and then changing angles. And then obviously in the later rounds, he dropped Josh Taylor in round 8. And in my eyes, from then on, there was no coming back from Josh Taylor unless he managed to get a stoppage, which it looked highly unlikely the way the pace of the fight was going. I'm a massive fan of Josh Taylor. I think he's a world-class fighter and he truly deserves his dues. But he lost that fight, unfortunately. And I don't know whether it was a weight issue. I don't know whether it was the fact that he just come back from a knee injury, the fact that he looked a bit too drained in the weigh-in. Maybe he's getting too big for the weight. It was just a lackluster performance. There's a part of me that feels that he underestimated Jack Catterall because he's actually become undisputed champion. He's come to the top of the tree in his division, and there's been loads of talks with him moving up to 147, fighting Errol Spence, fighting Terence Crawford. Maybe that was flooding his mind as well. I feel the pressure of fighting back home as well had a massive part. A homecoming, being too eager, trying to over-impress. All of these factors I felt like played in favour of Catterall, and we saw that on the night. He dodged the bullet there, I'll be honest with you. He actually dodged the bullet. Hopefully he learns from this lesson. McGuigan done an interview with Boxing Social, and I was intrigued by his comments. He basically said that he was disappointed in Josh Taylor's performance. That wasn't the same Josh Taylor that he had in his gym when they were together. He felt like the 5 years of the work that they built together was wasted on that night. The reason why his performance was so lackluster was because he feels like he's trying to change his style.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.
Josh Taylor is a high-paced, pressured fighter who's phenomenal on the inside. And that's very true. Like, you see, I remember the O'Hara Davis fight. That was the first time he caught my attention. And the amount of combinations he throws on the inside is sublime. He basically doesn't feel like it's down to the weight. He feels like he's trying to change his style and feels that he shouldn't move up to 147 because he will lose all his attributes. That's it with all the latest boxing news from myself, Big Nige. I hope you've enjoyed. Do not forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.